Support live. I'm going to do something here. Just you may see okay, actually I won't do it. I just realized there was some things running on my phone and I would turn them off to make sure they didn't interrupt our stream, but it's probably fine. We'll roll with it. So welcome everybody. If you're new to Brain Tech Support Live, this is where we take our brains out of their brain boxes, stick them in a drawer, close the drawer, and forget about them. But if you struggle with that, if you're not accustomed to removing your brain when you're not using it, then we'll talk about different techniques and different skills and capacities we can build to handle having a human brain, as happens sometimes. Earlier this week, or I guess last week on the Mental Fitness Discord server, we do a weekly meditation sit, which one of our members organizes. And one of the things I was talking about there that I shared was about the idea of like relaxing and how do you relax, and starting to notice when there's this kind of tension, this kind of, I always think of this something very much in the body, this kind of spinning, kind of in the chest and in the head of like, I've got to do things, I've got to solve things. And lately I've been exploring just noticing that and inviting myself to recognize there's nothing to solve. And it feels, I don't have a great way to describe it yet, because it's a very physical experience. So it feels like all of the cells are like cranked up and like we're gonna do stuff, and just recognizing, oh, like we don't have to do anything. We don't have to go anywhere. And then it feels almost like kind of tucking the cells in, like, oh, just like rest. But the great thing is that relaxing doesn't have to be separate from doing the work we do. And so that's where really, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, learning how to rest in awareness, learning how to be tired and do things we value, but really exploring how to be relaxed, how to step into something without that, oh, we've got to fix it, spun up feeling, and still do great work or still handle something that might be intense, but seeing that the intensity of the work or the importance or the significance of the work doesn't require that tension. I think we get really hooked on that idea that we need to be stressed, we need to be tense and hard in order to do good work, and then we're always burning out and getting stressed. And the reality is we don't, because if we're gonna do work aligned with a set of values, looking at how to do that well, it doesn't have to be work, it can be anything that we're creating, relationships that we're building. We don't have to carry around that, oh, I've got to get this right, I've got to perform perfectly, I've got to do it, I've got to do this thing. We can explore and create really well and create amazing things without needing to be stressed and burnt out. MC Dano, Isabel, Gail, hello. Karthik, oh, thank you for the kind words. Thanks for getting started on reading the book. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Isabel, exactly. It's that closing your pores part. We fold our paws. Maria said, how to move on from something bad that happened. I feel so bad from the way I behaved to a coworker. I looked at him angrily, and instead of saying hello, it happened so suddenly, and I feel guilty about this. So the great thing is that you've already moved on. Unless you're a time traveler, you have moved on. That you had an experience, a thing happened, and it's now in the past. But if you're trying to rewind the tape and ruminating on it and so on, that can create a lot of stress. That's helpful to recognize. It's helpful to recognize. That's happening in the present though. That if we choose to hate on something we did and ruminate on it and repeat it, it's very much a thing happening right now. And that's great because that is something that we can change. We don't have to change what happened in the past. And so what I found really helpful there was recognizing, oh, like I said something there or I did something and that's not how I want to act. I did something that isn't what I want to do. And it's great that we have that awareness. We can celebrate that awareness. And then I recognize, because I'm not a time traveler, I can't change that. I can't change what happened in the past. But what I can change is how I act now in the present and how I act in the next situation I'm in. And also, you mentioned there that a coworker came up and you looked at them angrily instead of saying hello. And you say it happened suddenly. And so I don't know the situation going on there, but if there was a situation where, say for instance, at the beginning I was talking about that, like that feeling of I've got to get things done, I've got to solve something. If you were maybe doing some work and were really, really trying to control some bad thing from happening in that work, when a person says hello to us, we may take that very forceful, hard energy, that stress, and react to that. Right? We may react to them like, oh, like why are you bothering me? I'm doing important things. Even if we wouldn't say that to them, that's the spirit or the kind of momentum we had in our bodies. And so it could be useful from this experience to see that whatever was happening before you looked at your colleague like that, that may be a place also where you get to see, oh, okay, actually, I only acted that way because of how I was approaching that activity or that event. How can I make changes there in the future? Yeah. But of course, not to give reassurance, but if your coworker, said something like, I don't like donuts, and you looked at them angrily, then that's on them. Like that's their problem. Ignacio, hello, good morning. Rocky Fighter said, how to detach thoughts, many years giving meaning, it makes worse. Thoughts become important. Rocky, I'm not sure what you're asking there, but I can see one thing that creates a lot of challenges with thoughts is you mentioned many years of giving them meaning. And so one of the things we'll often do is we'll invent these stories for ourselves and tell ourselves that these stories make things difficult. And therefore somehow this is a bigger issue or a bigger problem. But you can change the actions you're doing now in the present. If you had many years of attaching meaning to thoughts, that's great. Like that's something you can notice, but that doesn't make things different in terms of the changes you want to make. So if you want to start practicing something else, then you can do that. Because the practice of that, it's not going to be different. Just like if somebody played the tuba for 20 years. They're like, oh, I've played the tuba for 20 years. Well, now if they want to play the flute, yeah, okay, so maybe they'll mess up a couple times because, I don't know, they'll forget that they're playing the flute and not the tuba. But the process of learning the flute is going to, be the same whether they had 20 years of playing an instrument or not. And in fact, the fact that they already have a lot of musical experience will be very useful for them. MC Dano said, how do I create health goals without them being compulsions? I have a lot of health issues, but also problems with wanting to be perfect, the perfect diet, the perfect workout, etc. Yeah, so could you, like you see the things you're chasing there. So part of it will be that willingness to have wrong workouts. It's great to have wrong workouts. It's an exercise I've often suggested to people because we'll get that idea even around the feelings we're getting. Like even if we followed the workout perfectly, like say we get a workout from a trainer, we might still be saying, oh, like I don't feel like I did it enough or did it hard enough. Maybe I should go do this or maybe I should go do that because of all these things we're trying to control. So yeah, part of it I find is following a plan and setting really clear objective markers on the plan that are about actions you do. So it's not about chasing some kind of subjective feeling or even visual judgment of anything. It's about very clearly, here are the actions I do to build a skill I want to build, and here's how I'm going to measure that. And so especially if people are exploring fitness goals, I always recommend you do a fitness goal that's about building a capacity, never about losing something. What do you want to build? Do you want to lift more weights? Do you want to run further? Do you want to swim faster? And then it's about tracking the actions that take you in that direction. Nico said, sometimes I imagine scenarios and catch myself talking them out loud. It's really embarrassing. Could you give me sometimes, because I don't want to keep on doing that. Well, so Nico, see, have you explored not doing it? So when you're talking about there, because you say, like, sometimes I imagine scenarios and catch myself talking them out loud. So you recognize that you're imagining the scenarios. So have you explored noticing that urge to start imagining those scenarios and go, oh, I don't have to do that? You could say that out loud, but you could also just say it to yourself. Sleepy said, oh, well, I'm glad you're happy to be here. We're happy to have you here. Said, I have a topic I want to throw your way. I struggle with existential OCD pretty bad at the moment, and my fear is quite literally the present moment and the now, because my brain can't understand it. So the trigger is there all day. It's miserable. Once I stop ruminating and focusing on something else, my mind is like, oh no, you're thinking the wrong thing. Think about this again. It feels like an endless loop. Any ERP tips, advice in general? Sorry if that's a big one. I do have a therapist and I'm working on it. Sorry. So Sleepy, I guess, so you have a therapist, and in terms of ERP, and so I'd be curious, because so here's a question for you, and you can answer it down below, but with your therapist, are you working on cutting out the compulsions with ERP? Because what you're describing there are a whole bunch of compulsions. But if you're doing ERP around like repeating exposures, I would actually say that could be fueling the fear, because so much of existential OCD is like, essentially, are we living our lives? And if we put life on hold to go and chase exercises, to like repeat stuff and engage with the brain, then it's very natural that the brain is even more terrified of whether or not we're living our life, because we're putting life on hold to chase around brain stuff. So yeah, so first, have you already started to work on cutting out the compulsions with your therapist? Wouter said, in the morning, my intrusive thoughts pop up more. Yes, that's very common. I feel disattracted to my girlfriend then, and when I wake up next to her, I act different than usual. I adore her. She can't handle the difference in the way of doing anymore. I want to change the morning habits. Any tips? Yeah, it's so helpful to identify actions we want to practice. So especially, for instance, in the morning, rather than hooking our lives and our way of being to things like how many intrusive thoughts are coming up. Because if we attach our way of being in the world to the quantity or severity or intensity of intrusive thoughts, we're really handing away control. It's like kind of taking a clip and attaching it to a roller coaster and then saying, go, roller coaster, decide how I act. And so instead, especially in relationships, it can be really useful to identify values. And same around things like intimacy, how we act, and so on, communication. Because if a relationship is going to go on for long term, of course, feelings are going to be up and down, attraction is going to be up and down. And if that kind of random brain weather is deciding how we act, the relationship just ends up on quite the roller coaster. So yeah, I throw it over to you there. Like, what actions do you want to practice in the mornings that are going to build the relationship you want to be in? And those are going to be actions you practice with whatever is coming up in your head. Ross, nice to see you too. Oh, you saw that we're live and you're just dropping by. Well, thanks for dropping by. You said, I'm doing the work. It is sweaty and heavy work. All the best to you. To you as well. Congratulations on doing the work. Enjoy making your brain sweat. Tharva, hello. Kagemusha. You said, in your coaching, do you deal with the theme content of the OCD? So I don't know exactly what you mean there. Because also I wouldn't ever recommend somebody focusing coaching work around something like OCD. It's focused around what do you want to do more of in life? Where do you want to go? What skills do you want to build? On the way there may be challenges around a particular topic. And sometimes, we'll explore a bit around the topic just because, sometimes the topic can tell us some useful information or there's some experiences that happened. But the reality is working on, cutting out compulsions is going to be consistent with any topic. And working on doing more of the things we want to do in life is going to be the same regardless of the topic. So it's much more like physical fitness. Right? Like you don't go to the gym and like have to identify the theme of why you're out of shape before you start working out in the gym. It's about, what skills do you want to build? Do you want to build strength? Okay, we're going to do strength workouts. You want to build endurance? Great, we're going to do endurance workouts. There's no need to like label, be like, oh, I struggle with endurance because I have a couch sitting disorder. And then someone else is like, oh, I don't have couch sitting. I sit on a chair. Oh, you have chair sitting disorder? Your theme's the worst. It's as unhelpful in mental health as it would be in physical fitness. Josh, he said, have you ever had OCD over the feeling of anxiety in your head, like it feeling a certain way, meaning it's not real or real? So there's a useful piece of information even in your question. So asking if people have experienced a similar thing is a common reassurance checking compulsion. And it's also the same pattern that's at work if we're checking how a feeling of anxiety feels to see if we're going to judge it as real or not. And so that whole framework of checking things and then kind of putting them in categories and attaching meaning to them, that is at a fundamental level what a lot of mental health struggles rely on. So I would actually go after that pattern. Because as long as you're checking feelings in your head to judge if they're real or not, and to judge anything if like, oh, okay, or like that's an OCD thought, or that's a real thought, or that's a me thought, any of that kind of stuff is totally just gonna set you up for struggling. Because the brain just cares about the compulsion, and then it knows an easy way to get you into a compulsion is to make it feel real, because then you'll use that as an excuse to do more compulsions. Kareem, I said, I try not to think and listen carefully instead, but my mind is usually agitated and occupied with emotions, which hinders my ability to listen clearly. How to change this default mindset? So something I found useful to explore was seeing how we can have multiple experiences at once. We can have intrusive thoughts and we can be present. We can feel really terrible and guilty about something, real or unreal, and we can be happy about an experience we're having. But when we've been struggling, we often try to be very rigid, right? Put things in tiny boxes, right? It's that all or nothing, it's either clean or it's dirty. And so all I say to you right now is just starting to consider that you can have both of those experiences. And part of that's going to be making it okay to not have to listen clearly, because it becomes like trying to chase like a clean feeling. You're like, oh, I don't feel clean. I'm contaminated by these thoughts. They're contaminating my mind. I've got to get rid of them so I can have a clean mind, a clear mind, and then I can listen perfectly. So part of it's starting to allow it to be a bit messy. What if it's not a problem for those experiences to be there? What if they can be there and you can also listen? And maybe they'll interfere a bit, and that's okay. Pom Pom Kitty, hello. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you're doing well too. Maxwell, thank you so much for the donation and being a #1 fan. I love the animation. Thank you so much, Maxwell. I really appreciate it. It's very generous of you. Kagemusha. Uh, so I see you asking about coaching. So there are a couple steps. First, before working with somebody, and because also the kind of the compulsions you're mentioning there, it'd be really, I would say, important to first try working on cutting out some of those compulsions. And so yeah, if you go to markfreeman.ca/coaching, you can read more about kind of the type of things I work on with people and the first steps with the coaching work. And then, yeah, if it's something you want to explore further, there's a contact form there, and then we can talk about it and see. Yeah, because before I work with somebody, I make sure we are aligned on what we could actually work for. And then often there are many things that many goals people may have that I can't help them with. Jeff, hello. Ignacio, you're reading the part and You Are Not a Rock on beliefs. Yeah, so, part of it, yeah, go through the beliefs chapter, do the exercise in the back. And as you're doing that, so you ask there about, choosing useful and useless beliefs. And so all I'd say is, yeah, take a week, so say the week ahead, and just be curious about what you believe. And what you're then looking for are what beliefs are maybe not that helpful to you. If you think about where you want to go in life and the things you want to do, what would be more helpful beliefs? What would be more useful beliefs? And just starting to be open to considering that. I find because beliefs have become they're so, I don't know what is a good word for this, taken for granted. Like the metaphor and how I often think of it is like beliefs are like the little water that we swim in. Like we are fish in the ocean and we swim in the water of our beliefs and we don't really see them. They're just how we are in the world. But they're very learnable and changeable, and we can pick up new beliefs. So I find it just starts with asking, yeah, are they useful? What would be some more useful beliefs? Jeff, so what duration and frequency would you recommend someone who is first starting a meditation practice? Yeah, if you have any experience with physical fitness, anything like that, I would follow whatever kind of routine you found useful with developing a consistent physical fitness practice. But otherwise, yeah, if somebody's getting started, I like to push towards meditating for longer. So I actually, at first, might suggest to somebody they just do like 3 times a week, but quickly get up to 20 minutes. Yeah, if they want it's something they want to explore, where their goals are more about really the consistency. They want to go, I want to have like a consistent practice. Yeah, then maybe 5 times a week for 10 minutes to start. But even then, if they did that, so that they get good at like, oh, okay, I've done like a couple weeks at 10 minutes 5 times. Maybe I missed a couple days. That's great. Then I would say, okay, now go and sit for 30 minutes. Like you pick a weekend. So it's kind of like you're, have a running practice, like do a little bit of exercise, and then we're going to do a long run. Because meditation is it's a skill. So it's not like there's a magic frequency or duration. It's about, are you developing the skill and can you practice it? And so they're looking at more like what pushes your skills and abilities. So also, when somebody's starting out, I would suggest trying a bunch of different meditations and being curious about it. Like you say, oh, okay, like this week, yeah, maybe I'm going to try a different 20-minute meditation each of those 3 days. Yeah, just for fun. And I'm just, because I'm going to learn about them, I'm going to see what's difficult, what's not. Also understanding that it might not be the meditation, the guided meditation that's difficult. It might have been that I ate something weird for lunch. So maybe I'll try that again next week too. Yeah. So have fun playing around with it and exploring. Oh, Sleepy said you missed the answer. Oh no. Yeah, and you're watching this at work right now. It is saved. It'll be up online after. So I think I had a question for you, but if you missed it, then you probably cannot answer the question. Josh said, I watched your video on the past and mental baggage. Something I really struggle with is beating myself up for not recognizing what was happening to me and having insight into doing the right thing. Yeah, it's really common because one of the things we'll often do is judge ourselves and judge something we did in the past as like a contamination and then get upset. And so really celebrating where we're at now. Because the brain just loves to go, oh, like this thing in the past was bad and it caused problems. And the brain loves that because, of course, we're not time traveling janitors, so we cannot clean the past. And so it's just handing you something that you'll do lots of compulsions on around. And yeah, so instead being like, seeing that and being like, no, it's amazing that I can recognize now that was not useful to me. It's so incredible that I can do things in the present that are useful to me. Ruminating about that is not one of those things that's useful to me. So I'm not going to keep on repeating what happened in the past by doing more compulsions around this. Instead, I'm going to get on with living my life and making something amazing and creating something. And then so taking it in that direction. Khan said, is it possible to recover from intrusive thought-based verbal motor tics? I would recommend expanding your focus because just that question itself tells me that there's more compulsions going on. And so absolutely, it's possible to recover. I don't know what you mean by recover in that context. But I would really expand the focus rather because you're picking like such a narrow kind of topic or concept or compulsion there. But yeah, there's definitely more that will be useful to work on. Kareem, yes, is my new novel related to mental health in any way? And then Isabel pointed out below, everything is related to mental health. It's a key point. Everything is related to mental health. Yeah, but it's funny because like the character, the main character, of course, she is afraid of everything, and she's on kind of like this spaceship/space station. And it was great. Isabel brought up everything is related to mental health because I feel like there are so many things happening in the novel that, I would say are very related to mental health, but at the same time, they're just naturally things that happen in the world because the world is full of brains. Now, of course, this doesn't happen in the world, it happens in space because humans, and robots destroyed the world. But even in space, people still have brains. I don't know if the brain kind of floats around differently in the skull, but indeed, there's a lot of stuff related to mental health, but not in like I would say not in a strange or hopefully not in a bashing people over the head kind of way, just in like the reality of being young on a spaceship, and the spaceship is full of maybe lots of terrible people, sometimes, and lots of good people, but lots of terrible things happen on the spaceship. And so our main character, she has to deal with a lot. And I think it's very normal if you're a young person dealing with a lot of difficult situations in space where you could be tossed out into a burning, freezing vacuum at any moment. Yeah, you'd need to work on your mental health. Ignacio, thank you so much for the donation. And the animation is amazing too. Hey, I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for stopping by today. And yeah, as you keep on, reading the book and exploring, if you have any questions, always feel free to ask. You can post them in comments or send me an email through the contact form on my website. Happy to share anything that could be useful as you're doing the exercises. Oh, Colin, thank you for reading the book. I'm glad it's your favorite OCD book. Erica, welcome. I hope you're feeling better today. Oh, let's see. You asked, how can we approach making healthy changes when it doesn't seem possible that things will ever get better? So it really helped me to look what we're defining as getting better, because the brain will always, if it's subjective and it's about us judging something, the brain will always kick it off to the future. It's, the reason why, like, body dysmorphic disorder can give somebody such a warped idea of reality, because it's like, oh, I'm trying to make this thing better, and then the brain will just go, oh, it's not better, it's not better, it's not better, it's not better, it's not better. So it really helps to have a clear focus on specific actions and starting to measure actions. So if there are things we want to do and there are challenges to doing them, then looking at, okay, what's going to help me do that? And we're just measuring, do we do it or not? Or do we put in place the support that's going to help us do it? So we measure putting the support in place, things are better. And we measure doing the action, things are better, because we're only measuring it by very concrete, objective things. And so really turning better, or taking better out of that subjective realm and putting it into very clear objective realm, because otherwise the brain will always be, oh, it's not better, it's not better. Jordan, good morning. He said, just wanted to hop on here real quick to say thank you. Oh, to me, well, thank you for stopping on by. Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you for stopping on by and sharing some kind words this morning. Chris, yeah, on meditation too, you asked how often and where did you do meditation when you first started making progress with the technique? This is going way back. I didn't do it I went to some meditation like early on. I did go and visit some like different meditation groups in the city, but I mostly just meditated on my own. And yeah, so I was a bigger fan of like I mentioned earlier, going like I would go 3 times a week, 20 minutes. And then what I would do consistently at the start, and then do the longer sit on the weekend. And I still like that. Now I sit for longer during the week. And then on the weekend I might do like a double or something like that. But then some weekends I'll be really busy and be like, oh, I'm not gonna meditate this weekend. I'm gonna go do this thing that I want to do. Because really seeing like it's a skill And so the same with weightlifting. Like I'm not worried if I, skip a workout today because I don't know, something's going on, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go do this, and I'm not gonna do that workout. I can do that tomorrow, or yeah, just do it next week. That's not, nothing is gonna fall apart. I also found it really helpful, and these weren't something I did too early on, but going to meditation retreats. And so I would definitely say you want to, if you're interested in the practice, really finding ways to then do those longer sits where, you're going to work up to 50 minutes. And so if you are getting started, having that understanding that just like with physical fitness, uh, a 50-minute workout is going to be better than a 10-minute workout, right? You're gonna learn a lot more and do a lot more in 50 minutes, and that pretty standard average meditation retreat that you could go to is going to have multiple 50-minute sits during a day. So yeah, if somebody's getting started, I would set that 50-minute goal as something you're working up to, whether you want to do it in a month, or you want to do it in 2 months or 3 months. If you want to be really kind of gradual, I'd say, yeah, pick 3 months. Say, okay, at the end of 3 months, I'm going to do a 50-minute sit. And then just work backwards. Okay, if I'm doing 3 sits like per week, or maybe 4 sits, how am I going to increase that each week leading up to doing a 50-minute sit? Oh, okay, see, my question reflects how I'm feeling. Oh, be kind to yourself, Erica. Yeah, bodies, it's very weird when like we really notice how we're these kind of passengers on our bodies when the body is sick. And it's so difficult to remember what it was like not to be sick. And having kindness for that. One thing I have suggested recently was, what if you wanted to be sick for a month? And also, it wasn't just about being sick, but what if you wanted to care for yourself for a month? And he said, look, I'm just going to have a really relaxing month of caring for myself. And so the body is feeling good or not, well, that's not something we need to check because we're going to spend a month caring for ourselves anyway. Body can do whatever it wants. Sal said, I still have issues with Puro. That first initial doubt can be so strong. It's hard not giving it attention. What's your way of dealing with that first doubt and not getting stuck on it? Is a couple things. One, so find other things where there are uncertainties that you don't find as threatening and starting to practice not engaging with them. And so mental or physical, it's something like the brain throws up an uncertainty like, oh yeah, what are we gonna have for dinner later? Or where could we order lunch? And then it just starts to go through like thinking about the different possibilities, and we think that's good. We're like, yeah, where could I get lunch? Oh, well, I had that yesterday, and well, maybe I should get this, but that place kind of expensive. That's ruminating, right? You're trying to prevent a bad thing from happening. Oh, a bad lunch that's not delicious or too expensive or whatever. It may not seem as threatening as the stuff you may define as being like OCD or intrusive thoughts or whatever, but it's the same practice. And so starting to learn how to notice those uncertainties and drop them is a great way to start learning how to do it around the stuff that's more threatening, because the brain is just logical. The brain says, well, I throw uncertainties to you all the time and you engage with them, and they're not threatening. So how can you not engage with this uncertainty that is threatening? So if we want to get good at dropping uncertainties that seem threatening, we do have to learn how to drop the easy stuff. Rahul, yes. Which meditation is good for OCD? So I wouldn't approach it like that. That's like asking like which soap is best for feeling clean and getting rid of contamination fears. In general, if you're practicing meditation, I would say meditation is going to be the opposite of doing compulsions, because yeah, you can't be doing compulsions in your head. You can't be doing compulsions with your body in that moment. So meditation as a practice is going to be, I would say, yeah, very useful for exploring those skills. But it's a thing we do. Like the meditation doesn't do anything to OCD. It's that it really helped me to recognize I cannot practice compulsions if I'm practicing meditation or if I'm practicing mindfulness. Right? They're opposites. And so really approaching it like that, because it's not, yeah, the meditation won't do anything. You'll cut out the OCD to sit down and meditate. Kareem, yeah, yes. Are you doing meditation retreats as a once a year thing? How do you feel afterwards? So I watch it. I wouldn't. It's not about a feeling afterwards, because again, it's about practicing a skill, deepening a practice. There is, I'd say, some element of like, of course, you feel different afterwards because you've spent, say 7 days in silence or, really practicing a skill. But that's, that could be anything. Like if you went to an art retreat or a fitness retreat and, really focused on a skill for 7 days and didn't talk to anybody, of course there would be kind of a different feeling. But really seeing that it's not about the feeling after, it's about what skills are you building at the event. And so, yeah, I definitely probably do, I guess, a retreat a year, but I've been doing online retreats. So I did a meditation retreat, maybe it would have been 2 months ago, with a group that was meeting in Colorado. And so it's a bit different doing a meditation retreat remotely. I think it requires a bit more, even discipline and no, I wouldn't say discipline though. It's more like an openness, because the brain is really getting thrown around. Because an advantage of a meditation retreat is that everything in the environment is about the retreat. And that makes it, I would say, kind of easy. But if you're just at your normal home with normal things going around and you're like, no, we're going to do a lot of sitting, the brain doesn't know what's going on. So I'd say the brain is a bit squirmier if you do a remote retreat, but they can be really useful, yeah, to learn that skill of sitting and stopping in our everyday lives. So many places offer online retreats, but yeah, definitely places are going more online. I do have in-person meditation retreat tentatively planned at a Zen temple next year, and that'll be my first in-person retreat back around people out in the world next year. Mr. Anderson said, thanks for all the help. I recently quit marijuana after 15 years of all-day use. Oh, congratulations. He said, quitting has helped me be less comfortable with the compulsions, but I still struggle with anger. Any tips? Yeah, like some part of it is being curious about that and exploring what's there. Like you recognize it. And so sometimes it's also like making space for these things, just like we would if we knew a particular food upset our stomach. And yeah, we might be changing things and working on handling the upset stomach differently or handling food differently, but also being able to see, oh, like these foods upset my stomach. These nourishments around me upset my brain. But also I would start to look at what are the judgments that are happening there before the anger. What are you trying to control with the anger? Because when we see, because anger is just a kind of, especially when we express it, classic controlling compulsion, right? I'm gonna be angry, I'm gonna make you do a thing, fix a thing. What is it you're trying to control and fix there? And then how do you want to give compassion to your brain, understand why it's trying to fix that, understand why it's trying to protect you, and what do you want to teach it instead? It doesn't, because one of the things where we run into issues is if we just try to clamp down on the anger. without recognizing, oh, well, my brain's only doing that because it's trying to protect me from something. So if we don't address the thing it's trying to protect us from, and say, oh, okay, I get it. I understand why you're trying to protect me from that. Here's how we're going to handle that now. If we don't do that, it just is really difficult and terrifying to us, because we've taken away the thing that's supposed to control that thing we want to control, but we're not dealing with it differently. So the brain's still like, there's a terrible thing happening, and we're like, yeah, don't get angry. Don't do anything about it. How can you recognize what is trying to control, and then teach it some new tricks so it knows, hey, yeah, we learned how to control that with anger in the past. That's not useful to us anymore. Here's how we interact with that now. And yeah, you may see too that the thing it's trying to control just isn't relevant anymore. But the brain's still going, I'm going to protect you from it. I'm going to protect you from it. Sarah said, how do you decide what to choose for lunch then? Yeah, if you're not ruminating about it, do you just choose the time later to think about it? No, it's not. It's a great question. This is where things like values come in, or like there was the question earlier about a fitness plan. Yeah, just really deciding those things in advance, in part to help ourselves. So yeah, like all sit down, maybe plan out some meals for the week. I have a set of values that help me make food decisions. That's all about, so I don't have to sit there like thinking about it. Something that really helped me was recognizing that I had, in many ways, built my life around relying on compulsions and relying on ruminating. And I'd say, oh, well, I'm just a thinker, and I just like to redo things, and I just like to be spontaneous. And I had invented all these things that I saw as part of me, but really, I was just creating situations where I'd have to spend tons and tons of time ruminating. So yeah, starting to look at, so like one value I found really useful, because in the mornings I used to struggle with lots of intrusive thoughts and lots of compulsions. And if I didn't know what was for breakfast, that would just be another source of, let's do tons of compulsions around what's for breakfast. And then like they would just go on until it was lunchtime. So it really helped to start to plan breakfast. See, oh, I don't have to wrestle with that. I can just know what I'm eating for breakfast. And so still, I really enjoy, like I'll kind of almost like my brain is like a little kid, and I'm telling it, hey, like tomorrow when we wake up, here's what we're gonna have. Yeah, it's just like, it has this thing that it can look forward to, and it doesn't have to worry about, oh no, where are we gonna get food? Things like that can be really useful. We don't have to be constantly ruminating and stressed. But sometimes that requires us making changes. Dalal said, yeah, your main character sounds a lot like me. I'm scared of everything. Many people are. Rocky Fighter said, how can I take a positive approach to having OCD because I blame myself? So I wouldn't look at it that way. I would start to look at what are the skills you want to build? And like, where do you want to go? Hey, there's a great rainstorm that started. It just sounds like there's really big, enormous raindrops falling outside. So Khan, you said, so could you expand for a minute about intrusive thought-based tics? They're too automatic to intervene, and trying to focus on my work based on my values during tics could easily be avoidance. I would question that, like why it would be avoidance. The thoughts are the distraction. Living our lives is what this is all about. And so yeah, if we're like, oh, I need to stop living my life to go and kind of have a dialogue with some intrusive thoughts or some physical sensations, yeah, I would see anything that's taking us away from what we value doing and being ourselves and living our lives. I would see that as the compulsion. It's very common though that people get afraid of avoidance, like this idea, oh, I can't avoid it, and then the brain loves to use that to think of the brain as this random person on the street, and he's constantly shouting stuff. And he shouts at you, he says, like, you're an alligator. And you were gonna walk on, but then he says, like, oh, are you walking away? Are you avoiding the conversation? It must be true then. And if you walk away, all bad things are gonna happen to you. You should come back here, and like, if it's wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. Or are you too afraid to have that conversation? And then so often we go, oh yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm not gonna avoid this. And then we go back and we have that debate with the brain. But that we've already lost because we turned around, we stopped living our lives to go back and have a debate with the brain. It doesn't matter what it throws up. You heard it. You can walk on. And it's often a much bigger and much more useful exposure exercise to walk away and live your life. And on the idea of the things being automatic, I would say everything will seem that way at first because it just becomes like a reflex. And it is very much like learning how to cut out a reflex. So the example I often give there is like somebody who has always played volleyball their entire life and is now playing football, like soccer. And so sometimes they're absolutely their arm is just gonna shoot out and they're gonna hit the ball. And so learning how to teach the brain, oh, actually this game we only play with our feet, we're no longer gonna use our hands. Yeah, it doesn't feel possible at first, but it's, yeah, learning how to get bad at volleyball. Because the brain's like, no, I'm good at this, watch how fast I can do it, slam. And starting to say, no, we don't have to do that anymore. So yeah, it's a process. And there's a bunch of different things you can explore around, like getting bad at a reflex. Isabel has uncovered my menu plan for breakfast. It is donuts. Oh, breakfast are donuts, lunch, donuts, dinner, soup, or donuts. You know, donuts go really well with soup. You don't see that as much in North America and South America, but in Asia, and it's kind of a different, you know, there's like savory donuts. Yeah, I'd say it's more common that you get kind of like savory donuts with your soup. Delicious. An appropriate soup accompaniment. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. And the injured video game controller. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the support. And so, Sarah, you asked there too on anger. Continuing the discussion, you said, can you give an example of how you could deal with it differently? Like if my brain is trying to protect me from losing my boyfriend. Oh, yeah, so there's a great example there. So one of the things I'd recognize there is seeing, okay, the brain is trying to protect me from losing something, right? I really care about somebody. We don't want to be alone. So it's trying to protect me there. And so, yeah, it might lash out in anger, all sorts of things, or checking, trying to control things like, don't do this, I don't want you to do this, because we're afraid like, oh, if you do that, then it means, you know, you'll leave me or you'll get taken away. And so one is recognizing, okay, like there's this younger self, there's this little me there who's, you know, probably learned at some point that we could lose things and it felt very bad and they were really dangerous and they didn't want that. And so, yeah, they learned to lash out, try to make it stop, try to make it not happen. So part of it, that's where we start, like recognizing like what am I trying to control and where does this come from? And then it's about asking, well, what do I actually want to build in life? And so sometimes then it's about letting that younger self know, hey, like I understand why you're trying to control this, understand why we're afraid here, but we don't have to control this anymore. So I found it really helpful a lot of times just to recognize the brain had built up this kind of habit energy, which like, we got to protect this thing, we got to protect this thing. Starting to say, no, like we don't have to protect that anymore. I understand why you want to protect that, but we don't have to. And then something I had to look at a lot was that often I was looking to get something from other people that I needed to start giving to myself. So a lot of the times it was recognizing that younger self was looking to get something. It's like, I've got to protect this because, maybe this affection from this other person is how I determine that I'm valuable. And if somebody leaves me, then I won't be valuable. And so starting to recognize that is not a very useful way to approach the world. But I was spending so much time hating on myself, and it made sense. My other selves were looking for affection from somebody else because I was not giving it to myself. And so part of it often then in those situations was noticing, hey, I understand why you want to get that. We don't have to control this anymore. And I'm going to be here for me. I'm going to provide that love and support that clearly part of me really needs in this moment. And then if it's in a relationship, being able to recognize, hey, yeah, I really care about this person. So what am I going to do that supports the relationship right now, rather than doing something that's going to damage the relationship? So I might actually be giving some care and support. I'll definitely to the other person, and I'll definitely be doing that to myself. Khan, you're welcome. Yeah, you can. The thoughts are the distraction is always going to be useful. Erica, it said, when you started planning meals, activities, etc., what obstacles did you encounter and how did you deal with them? My brain wants to rebel against plans that I made in advance. Yeah, so part of that, like when it wants to rebel, that's where I found that exercise useful of just scheduling in random things into my calendar. So and I give this to people a lot, and I've never seen people's calendars, but I hope people's calendars are full of truly random things, like walk outside and hug a tree. And it's just to start getting the brain used to the fact that we decide. And so that's one way you can work on it, because it'll just go, oh, there's a plan, I don't want to do it. So just starting to go, oh no, like we're going to plan all sorts of random things. And so if everybody is not familiar with it, you just, in your calendar at a wrong time, because brain likes those even times where it goes, oh, like it's 2:15. Okay, now you have permission to go. So you put it in at like 2:17. A little note in your calendar that just says, walk outside and say hello to a fire hydrant. Walk outside, find a fire hydrant, and then come back inside. Just to show the brain you can plan things and do them. So working on that skill, I find really helpful. But then one of the biggest challenges, Erica, was that I would get very all or nothing, and if anything disrupted the plan, then I'd basically throw out the whole plan. And that came up in all sorts of ways, like especially working on mental health stuff too. Right? Like if I hadn't done it perfectly, then who may as well start over next week. This week is ruined. And so learning how to allow that. So learning how to have kind of like collapsible plans. And that's still something I find really, really useful in schedules, so that I really know what's most important, second most important, third most important. So yeah, if we ditch one thing, okay, well, we're still going to keep the other two. So having a collapsible, say, food or exercise plan, but then also having a clear set of values. So it's easy to say, okay, I couldn't do that thing I planned, but it was never about that thing. That thing was just one way I was going to achieve this value. I can still achieve that value. Okay, what's that going to look like in this new context? So yeah, collapsible plans and values that allow us to be flexible because the context and the environment are constantly changing. Because yeah, some places don't always have their donut soup available. Nicole, I like just a comment that just says donut soup. Sanjeev, hello. Nicole, does donut soup have frosting? No, because it's savory, but a lot of soups have, like sour cream and like cream on top, things like that. My favorite soup of the year was definitely pozole. Has everybody had pozole? It's a wonderful Mexican soup. It's so wonderful, so delicious. I look forward to having some pozole again soon. I think, yeah, maybe pozole is like a good like New Year's soup. Bring in the first day of the new year with some pozole. I feel I will try to do that. Yeah, Erica mentioned there. I really relate to that I'm spontaneous thing you mentioned. I want to do what I feel like doing in the moment, but this leads to lots of waffling, rumination, indecision. Yeah, and that's what it helped me so much to recognize that I wasn't actually doing the things that I thought I would be able to do by holding on to those ideas and stories about myself. And so it was really starting to have that focus more on, okay, this goes back to the beliefs. Okay, what beliefs are actually going to get me to where I want to be or who I see myself as? Because part of it, and think about these stories we tell ourselves about ourselves, sometimes it's not that the story's wrong, it's that the way we think we get to that story it doesn't work. So we've gone, oh, I'm spontaneous, and then we think that means like not planning lunch, but then we just don't eat enough. And that actually, oh, maybe if I'm really consistent with fueling, my food and fueling awesome, then I can actually be much more spontaneous. And then also, oh, I can be spontaneous because I have a really flexible set of values. So I can go anywhere and see how to apply those values in that situation. So that, yeah, the changing how we approach these is an interesting territory to explore. Oh, Mr. Anderson. Yeah. That in many ways, you mentioned there, I was looking to get something from other people that I should be giving to myself. In many ways, I found that was very applicable. And so I always find it interesting to ask if I notice, frustration around something or craving around something, like what am I trying to get here? Is it something that I need to be giving to myself more? And that the brain is just now, because I haven't been nourishing myself with that, it's like desperate for it from somewhere else. But that really can begin with me, really taking care of myself. Chiate, he said, I'm still dealing with sexual performance anxiety. I try to let go control and focus what I give. But lately I found out that my girlfriend cheated on me. My brain tells me it's your fault. Any advice? Yeah, so when they're like being kind to yourself, yeah, like when you say like your fault, like no, like somebody, yeah, like yeah, I would say, is that gonna be useful to you? And then really looking at, yeah, how do you want to be kind to yourself? How do you want to care about yourself? Because it's okay to have anxiety around like sexual performance. If we're like, oh, that can't be there, I need to get rid of that, and we're just adding extra pressure to ourselves. Joy Panzer said, I recently started a new job. It said, I recently started a new job at Nike. But then as I look closer, it says, I recently started a new job. Yikes. And then he said, I found old OCD obsessions rising up again about checking if I'm liked, checking if I'm funny, checking if people look at me funny. I know what's going on and how this is all really unhelpful. However, I've always been someone who speaks without thinking and sometimes being awkward. So I find it hard to dismiss the OCD stuff because it feels like it could be a rational move to protect me. Oh, the brain loves being rational. Yeah, so one, it helped me see OCD is super, super rational. Not putting it in the irrational camp, it's actually, you could say, the height of being rational. So the brain's being super logical. It's being, this could be a problem, you should fix it. And we're like, yeah, that could be a problem. So setting aside rational and instead bringing the focus to how do you want to do that job well? What are the actions with doing that job well? And yeah, maybe what are the actions with building social relationships around the office at Yikes Incorporated, and sticking with those actions. Because then the brain can go, oh, but like, what if that person thought that was weird or something like that? And you're like, well, did I do the action that I value doing in that situation? I did. Okay, then I don't control what they think about me. Because yeah, the reality is you don't. But the brain loves to try to control what other people think about us. So enjoy the new job. Cool, yeah, pozole, super good. Isabel, you said, my brain does not like to accept eating anything boring. It must be good because I only live once. I like my food compulsions a lot. I probably eat a lot of boring things now, but also I eat a lot of pozole. Pozole is, it's really fun. Because when you get pozole, this is important for anybody who hasn't had pozole. But also, if you go to a pozole restaurant, they don't do this, and you know it's not real pozole. Your pozole will come with all sorts of stuff, and by stuff I mean food stuff like herbs and sauces, and there'll be radishes and onions and different salsas, and because you get to add them in, and there might be might there be? There'd be probably some cheese potentially, because different places make it differently. So I should say that. But uniformly, what they'll all do is bring you lots of stuff with your pozole, because you really get to like customize it, and that's amazing. Because even if you get takeout pozole in Mexico, it'll still come with all of the stuff, like all of the spices in little baggies, all separated, all of the different salsa and everything, so that you can still customize your pozole to make it perfect. Not that we're chasing perfection, except around pozole. Sanjeev said, I was talking to a girl for a very long time, but now feel I'm getting attached to her. Even after knowing that she has a boyfriend, my feelings are getting hurt every time. Now I think it is real, not OCD. Do I treat this? I'm not sure what you're asking there. When you say, I think it is real, yeah, what if you're really talking to somebody, then it's real. Like the talking to them is real. MC Dano said, do you have any advice on how to plan tasks? I often feel disorganized and lacking structure. I just don't want to procrastinate anymore. Yeah, so at first, making it simple. So if we've been procrastinating a lot, I find it's helpful not to try to just kind of yank the whole system and be super on top of everything, but maybe picking one thing, and exploring that for a week where you're going to consistently do that proactively or at a particular time, using a set of values. So at first you might pick one value, and like you might say, I value responding to an email when I receive it. That doesn't mean you have to like hold your phone and react to it when the notification pops up. It would still just have a time when you're going to sit down and answer emails. But for example, not reading an email and then being like, oh well, I'll think about what I'm going to say and respond later. You might say, no, every time when I sit down to read emails, I respond to them all right then. And just practicing something like that for a week. And then the next week, continuing with the skill you added in the previous week and adding in something else. And then you just keep building like that. So what are the things you value doing? How can you practice them proactively this week? What's going to be the easiest to practice? What's going to be the second most difficult, and so on. And then enjoy. And it's okay to take it slow. So often we want to like be super at whatever we're doing right now, and we go so extreme that then we burn out, and we feel like, oh, but if I just make one change, it's not enough, or it's not big enough. But the reality is, if you make a significant change like that each week, they really start to add up, but you're also more likely to stay consistent. Because yeah, big changes don't count if we don't actually stick with them. Isabel, you said, I like food more than people. Finding comfort from myself equals eating, and that is so well practiced. Yeah, look, like what comfort do you want to give to yourself that right now is coming from the food? But what if you were giving it to yourself? Because yeah, of course, food is like a wonderful thing. And you said, yeah, like I like food more than people. I mean, sure, there's There are many dishes that are pretty amazing. But also, even seeing that like question of like, say for instance, is food better? Are foods better than people's? Is food better than people? Like, is it a relevant question? Um, like, why is that the choice? Food or people? Because you could say like food is better than tables and like get rid of all the tables. I only have food. Uh, yeah, why? Why does it matter if food's better than people? You can have food and it can be amazing, and you can still hang out with people, and you could tell them they're not as good as the food, but yeah, you could still spend time with them. Mm-hmm. Noah, good morning. You're gonna go cook some baby bok choy today. Enjoy. Baby bok choy is so green. Yeah, Erica here explaining. Erica says, exactly. I'm noticing that I do what I feel like doing doesn't actually lead to me doing the things I want to do. This conversation was helpful. Oh, well, no, thank you for bringing it up. It's a great topic to explore. Right? Mr. Anderson said, if you love pozole, I recommend consomme de res, a bit thicker soup made with similar spices, but usually with shredded beef instead of chicken. I do not eat beef anymore. There have been a couple times where beef has been in foods. Like I'm not. I don't throw the plate across the room if it's served with beef somewhere. But yeah, I wouldn't actually seek out consomme de res. Yeah, I cut out beef. I don't miss beef at all. There would be like it wouldn't at this point. Yeah, too. Like if something had beef, I'd be like, oh, it would it would inspire nothing. But the consomme might be delicious. Michelle asked, "Are we talking about food today?" Yes, yes, we are. Oh, Nicole, yeah, you've been getting pho with all of the everything on the sides and everything like that. It's delicious. So Sanjeev, I see explaining about the talking thing. You're saying, is this attachment real or OCD? Uh, yeah, I'm not sure what the question would mean. Like I would look at instead, like what do you want to spend your time and energy on? Um, yeah, like if you're talking with somebody who has a partner, like like what do you see as the and I mean you can talk with people that have partners. I'm sure many people who have joined us in the conversation today have partners, and we can all talk. But I'm not I'm not pursuing thinking we're going to pursue a relationship or something like that. So if you're like talking with somebody who has a partner and you think that is about something romantic, well, like what do you see as the possible paths there? Because if you're looking to be in a relationship, then talking with somebody you can't be in a relationship with is going to waste a lot of your time. If you're approaching it as something romantic, but if you're just talking with somebody, because yeah, you're not expecting that to be anything else, then if you find value in that, I mean you can find value in that. Erica, you are super, super. Stefan, welcome. I said, have I watched any World Cup? No, I don't think so. I've only seen highlights. I can hear. I knew how the Mexico Argentina game was going because I could hear from the bar that was just down the street. I think I was meeting with clients at the time, though. Isabel. Giatti, you said, I want to avoid sex right now because of anxiety, but I know that this is not a solution. Lately, I realize I'm afraid of avoidance, and so I'm hard on myself for doing things. It's like a new compulsion. Yeah, and so it really, that's why it helps so much to like ditch the idea like, oh, I've got to like work on compulsions and stuff like that, and just really shift the focus to like, yeah, what do I want to build? So for instance, yeah, if you're exploring intimacy, sex, well, having intrusive thoughts, having anxious feelings, things like that. Yeah, it's looking at, okay, what skills do I want to build there? What practices do I want to enjoy? What do I want to give to the person I'm with, or the people I'm with, or myself? And really shifting it in that direction. Because if we get on the, I've got to avoid things, I've got to control things, we just end up trying to control more and more and more. Oh, Isabel said, once a long time ago, I cried about missing donuts in a counseling session. It's a cryable experience. Yeah. I'm like, people will be reassured by this, but coming up, I'm about to, change locations soon, and I have gone into Google Maps because there's one spot I'm stopping as I'm changing locations, and so I'll only be there for a short period of time. So I have gone through and saved all of the donut shops that I'm going to visit. To make sure, yeah. See, like that's the planning thing. To be like, because I could go, oh no, I'm just gonna go and like feel which donut shop to go to. No, then you don't get to go to as many donut shops. So I know the donut shops I'm going to go to, and I don't have to think about it anymore. It's gonna save me so much time when I get there, and then I'll get to have more donuts, and then there'll be 30% less crying. Sarah, you said, I'm in DBT, and the therapist has said rumination is usually when you're in emotional mind and not rational mind, DBT terms. I always felt like I was being very rational while I was doing this. Ruminating, so it made sense when you just said OCD is very rational. Yeah, I find it useful to see that they're like very rational, right? Like it's the brain going, oh, this person did this, therefore I feel bad about this, and that kind of stuff. Stefan, you said spending today listening instead of asking questions. Oh, enjoy the listening. Sitting with all my questions and telling them to sit by me as I listen. Oh, it's a practice I find really helpful. Yeah, invite them to sit them down. It helped me to like even see kind of what they look like. Yeah, because you see they're like, yeah, I get it, brain. These little things, like you're these little tiny monsters and just running around up there, like oh, you gotta ask about this, you gotta ask about this. And just, yeah. Just seeing, yeah, that's like, they're like little animals. And that's just that question, that uncertainty, that's like the noise that bird makes. I went out for a walk the other day, and there was some kind of amazing tropical bird kind of song sound. And it's, yeah, just kind of recognizing, oh, we have these like tropical birds in our heads, and they cry out in uncertainties. And so when we start to recognize, oh, that's just the sound it makes. And it lives here right now. Maybe it's going to migrate somewhere else later, but I can take care of the terrain and give it a sanctuary. And when it wants to move on, it can move on. But for now, when I hear it call with its little uncertainty call, I'll just appreciate that it is staying in the wilderness in my head right now. Jor Panzer said, how do you personally deal with feelings of anxiety and panic when you end up in that purely reactionary panicked headspace? I'm sure you get these. Wondering, because we tend to just see the calm you're here when you're seemingly fully present and engaged. Is it just everything you've set down in yen are seemingly fully present? I'm probably planning donut trips. Yeah, no, like, so one, I always find this interesting because I think the two, you hear a message a lot, which has its value, that like social media is like not real and it's contrived and so on. And so I try to share more of my life, but then also I don't kind of like need to. And so I'm usually just living my life, and I don't think, oh, I should like take a picture and make a video right now. But yeah, yeah, there's not this how we are on this conversation is how yeah, things will be the rest of the day. For me, like things, I would say my life is much more uh, interesting and amazing than it appears on social media. And yeah, no, like there's not like some other me like not doing the kind of techniques and skills we talk about, because yeah, I mean, I really owe my life to this stuff. I would not want to go back to the old way of doing things. So yeah, there's not really situations where I would have, you know, super anxiety, panic attacks like I did in the past. But in the past, yeah, very much like I would say like week-long panic attacks where it's just in that constant state of this horrible thing is about to happen, this horrible thing is about to happen. And, spending so much time in my head on that stuff. And what I would say helped me the most, and I would say is the reason why I don't have those anymore, is because it's way more useful to get ahead of them and look at the judging and controlling we do that may seem normal, that may seem necessary, but is actually then just setting up this panic attack spiral that the brain is then going to blow out. And we may see it as not connected because the topic of the panic attack spiral is going to be on something threatening, whereas all the little controlling and checking and avoiding we did seemed normal, and oh, that's just who I am, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would start to look at actually not the panic attack spiral. I always tell people, if you get there, yeah, whatever helps you is fine. But the more useful thing for us to work on is going to be, how did you get into that experience? And that's where the changes are going to happen. So yeah, if you find yourself in super panic attack mode, I'm like, have a panic attack, have whatever helps you deal with that, care for yourself, and navigate that situation. And then after you've navigated out of it, in whatever you do, not getting caught up in like, oh, I can't do this, that's going to be unhealthy, that's a compulsion, whatever. No, like whatever. Then we can start to look at, okay, how did you get into that, and how do we prevent that? Moral. Said, advice on not focusing on ectopic heartbeats and palpitations in general. It seems extra in your face because it's always right there. So watch out for that, because if we judge physical things and real things as like these require compulsions because they're on me, then the brain will give you a lot of those because it just cares about the compulsions. So yeah, one of the things I would look at is, yeah, what are you trying to control there? When you latch onto that and go, oh no, this is a thing I've got to be on top of. Yeah, what are you trying to control? And then you'll probably see a fear that you can work on in many ways throughout life. Natasha, you said, hi there. Oh, Nastasia, sorry. I like read the name too quickly. It said, I love your videos. They're so helpful and inspiring. Oh, thank you. Right now, I'm so depressed because one of my cats is dying in my arms. Oh, much love to your cat. Cats are wonderful. And yeah, absolutely, it hurts. And that's okay for that to hurt, because yeah, that hurt just comes from wanting to give love and feeling that loss. So yeah, I hope you care for yourself as you're navigating a really difficult time. Yeah, I see some other people have mentioned, Anastasia, feeling sorry about your cat. Our community, like many communities, is a fan of cats. For anybody who doesn't know what ectopic heartbeats are, Erica went and Googled it for us and calls them heart hiccups. If you're struggling with heart hiccups, don't try to drink water backwards with your heart. Isabel, you said tropical birds in Canada? No, I am not in Canada. Mora said, I spent a lot of time in bed with COVID feeling better, but I've convinced myself the whole experience has made me depressed. How to overcome this I'm depressed notion, which only sinks you further. Yeah, so, and like you said, like once we get hooked on that story, then it starts to shape the other things we do. And then because we're not being ourselves and doing the things we want to do, it does make us more depressed. So I call that the depression spiral. So you want to start to wind the depression spiral the other direction. And that'll be about seeing, hey, what are some things you want to do right now? You know that then the brain is going to go, oh, but we're depressed. And then it's going to be about thanking it for that. So like we were talking about, like Stefan brought up, inviting those questions to come and sit with him. And so, yeah, noticing the brain go, like, but we're depressed, and be inviting that along. Be like, okay, like, come on, little depression monster. And then let's go and explore some things we want to do. Anastasia, oh no, thank you. Thank you for, checking out the videos and sharing today. Isabel points out that it is mysterious and I could be anywhere. It's true, I could be anywhere, but it is a place with tropical birds. And we're almost coming up on 90 minutes. So yeah, why don't we wrap things up? Some of us have to go and talk to tropical birds. Some of us have to go and eat donut soup. Some of us have to be kind to ourselves and give to ourselves things that we're trying to get from other people that don't know we're trying to get that from them, which makes it very difficult for them to give it to us. Oh, Sarah, thank you. Yeah, everybody, thank you to everybody that donated today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. It helps with doing these sessions, but it's also so wonderful to sit down with everybody and explore this. Oh, Isabel, thank you. Moro, yeah, you said I've been Googling symptoms and watching YouTube videos like a madman. Yeah, that's gonna make the brain work, bring up more uncertainties. And you guys, should I quit all this cold turkey? Well, part of it I wouldn't see it as cold turkey, like some kind of extreme addiction there. Yeah, you can recognize, wow, like none of this is helpful to me. I don't have to do this. What would be nicer to yourself? Joe Penzer said, speaking of donuts, we had to do short videos at school for the end of the year DVD. We had to say what we wanted to be when we were older. I said donut taster when I was age 10. That's a brilliant, I hope your journey to that important career is ongoing. Mr. Anderson, thank you so much. Oh, I really appreciate you stopping by and supporting today. Thank you so much. Stefan, you're gonna go on a walk before your exams tomorrow. That's great. Have a good walk. Oh, you're gonna enjoy the cold, cold air in Romania. Be refreshed by it. Yeah, enjoy the cold, refreshing air. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for inviting the uncertainties to come along and join you today. Yeah, have a good day. Ocho Pense, have a great day, yeah. And Isabel's gonna go spend some time with humans, not foods. The foods can come too. Yeah, but there might just be humans there, and that's okay. All right, everybody. Yeah, let's wrap things up there. Thank you. Yeah, again, thank you everybody who donated. Thank you everybody who dropped on by today. It was great to talk about donuts and also brains with you all. Of course, if anybody needs a link to the Mental Fitness Discord server, send me a DM on Instagram or message me through the contact form on my website, and we'll get you hooked up with the excellent community there. And otherwise, I'll see everybody over there during the week. And enjoy giving to yourself this week things you might have been looking for from other people. Erica, thank you. Maxwell, thank you to you as well. Yeah, take care, everybody.